Welcome to Hollywood as I live and work.
So, tell me, what was the vibe on the set doing this film?
The vibe. It was fun every single day. I had a great time making this movie, and there was, to be able to work with this cast and such an amazing group of people was just made every day exciting. And so, the vibe, I like to keep the set loose. I like to keep it fun, and I just think that when we're all sort of enjoying what we do, because it's a gift what we get to do for a living, I think we all have a better time. So it was great every day.
But is there also a danger when you get a number of funny people together, and so it's sort of like herding cats? You say, okay, we have a script to shoot.
Yeah, no, it was definitely challenging at times because there's so many great people involved, and any time there was a scene where it was all of them in it, then it became a kind of game of one-upsmanship between the actors. And I think that's just sort of a natural thing, and which is good because I think it creates a great natural performance when that happens. And I like to let the actors have their space to feel out the words, feel out how they want to deliver them, because it has to be organic to them. And so when we get in those big scenes, they're crazy.
Why do you think we don't see more cross-cultural movies like this? And is it hard to even get something like this greenlit?
Yes, to the last one. The second, it's definitely hard to get something like this greenlit, and it was a long process to get it done, and it took a lot of people believing in the idea of telling this story to make it happen. But I think it's happened a lot. Throughout time. We've seen, obviously, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner is the template of all of this, and there have been many films to follow in that same mode. I guess what's unique about this is that it's black and brown as opposed to black and white, which is usually what we see in this type of scenario. And I thought that felt more current and contemporary to the ever browning world we live in, and so I think that aspect of it is what made it little easier for the studios to kind of get behind it and say, okay, this is something we haven't quite seen before. We've seen it before, but this is a point of view and a perspective that's unique. And so I've been doing this for about 12 years now, and I try with my scripts to make them look like the world that I live in. And I grew up in Los Angeles, and I live in New York now, and that world is black, it's white, it's brown, it's everything. And so that's how I want my films to look. And so I'm not necessarily thinking about why there are not as many cross-cultural films. There should be more, because that's how the world looks.
How did you go about casting?
It was, basically there's some people I had in mind as I was writing the script. Like America was definitely in my mind when I was writing Lucia's character. And there's some people who came to me just in the course of the casting process, and like I'd been seeing Angela Johnson's YouTube videos, and I knew she was on Mad TV, and so again she was someone that I felt would be perfect for the role of Lucia's sister Izzy. And then there are just folks like again Regina King, who you go, and Forrest, who you say okay, we'll give it a shot, but they're not Forrest, he's not going to want to do this crazy little comedy, and it happens. But it was just, it's one of those things where it's been a wild casting process, and there's folks who have come and gone in the process, but ultimately I think we ended up with an amazing cast. And
You talked about, the screen doesn't always reflect the, cross-culturalism or anything, and it's not just the screen, it's behind the camera. For Lee Daniels to be the first black director nominated for a DGA, it's a crime.
Yeah.
How much did political correctness play a part in like the script of this film and different things like that? Because it seems like there's so much hypocrisy when it comes to our reality being reflected.
I don't know if necessarily that I was thinking of any political correctness in terms of making the film. Again, I like to just start from a place of these are people, these are stories that we all relate to, and would I go spend my 10, 11, 12, 15 bucks in some cases to go see a movie like this? And so I start there, and then just my own background brings my unique point of view.
How gingerly did you, because one of the things that I enjoyed is how you played with some of those stereotypes, like the bro essay debate that goes on between Carlos's and Forrest's characters. But I felt like if you had gone too far with that, you could have offended one side and kind of pushed them away instead of saying, "Oh, I identify with that. I've had that conversation." Exactly. So, how did you find that line?
I don't. I mean, it's something you just feel out, and again, I didn't try to consciously say we're going to avoid race, but I also didn't make a conscious decision to make race a main issue. But I think it comes mainly from difference, and I think that most of what we deal with in terms of race is just not being around people that look different than us, whether it's from because we grow up even in places like Los Angeles. Even though it's a diverse city, we're all in different neighborhoods, and we have freeways that separate us, and we hop into our cars and never really have to see anyone else other than the folks that we live around. And it's when and marriages in some ways bring people together and force us to sort of commingle in a way that we don't have to in our normal everyday lives. So there's, for me, I just dealt with it more in terms of there's just a natural, I'm guilty of it, everyone's guilty of it, preconceptions about people if you're just not hanging around them or with them all the time. And so I didn't try to make it like, these were, offensive stereotypes. It's mainly just, ignorance to some extent, and they're ignorant of each other and their cultures and their practices and, the electric slide or the lasso that in the Mexican wedding ceremonies. And so I think that I tried to just deal with it in terms of, anytime there's something different that comes into your life, you react to it.